When he turned his back from shoulder to shoulder, it looked like as wide as the tailgate of a truck.
And just darkness, literal darkness, just came like all over, just all over me except where I was standing.
This thing let out the most blood-curdling, mind-blowing, spine-tingling scream that you've ever heard in your life, and it cut through me like a knife.
And I knew that they were going to take me. I just knew it. And then the next thing I can remember is being levitated.
Well, when I look in there, I see two big eyes staring back at me.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Bump Podcast, a place for the believers of the unexplained, monsters, and paranormal. Join us, and we'll go face to face with what goes bump in the night. Hey there, believers. I got another fun episode for you today. This week, I'm bringing on Dale. I've been trying to get this gentleman on the show since March. I don't know if I've ever met someone who works more hours than this man, but we have finally lined it up. I believe he had to take a day off of work, and he's here today. We're going to discuss some pretty exciting stuff, some pretty scary stuff. He's pretty adept to spiritual warfare. He's originally, our email started over an encounter he had. It's been probably 15 years ago, I think, with a demonic encounter with one of his friends. So I'll let him get into all of that. But he also has some other experiences that he wanted to share. Super excited about this one. We've waited a long time. Like I said, it's been since March. So we're recording this mid-July. So it's been a long time coming. So with no further delay, let me bring on Dale. Oh, let me ask you first. Those of you on YouTube, you can see a little bit more of the office. Not really much more, but I got a different camera angle. We did a little rearranging and stuff. We got the big stone head up here where you can see it now. So hopefully as summer progresses, I will arrange the cameras and stuff in a little bit of a different way to where we can get more of the office in here, because the whole thing looks like a big set basically. So it'd be fun to share all that. Anyway, let me go ahead and bring on Dale.
All right, my name is Dale. So I guess I'll just start at the beginning with back when I was really tiny. It was a story from my mom.
Okay.
My sister had passed I think about a week before her birthday. And I was 2 years younger than her, but my mom told me that she had a dream where this huge, massive, I guess you could say, demon-like thing was like banging on the wall of the room that I was sleeping in. Like it was trying so hard to get in. Wow. And she woke up in a cold sweat, and she looked over. The dog was sleeping. She went and checked in the room. I was sleeping. Everything was just fine. And when she told me that story, I think that's where I started to get interested in, the paranormal and all that stuff. And right. I really didn't know what to think about it. It was just one of those things. And as I was growing up in that house, because when you walked into the living room and you would go down the hall, and the door to my room would be at the end of the hall. So, but every time at night, I'd always get this feeling of something watching me, something behind me.
Yeah.
So I just kind of, I thought it was like, looking back now, I thought it was just a little kid being a little kid type of thing. But I actually, when I became a teenager and all that, you could still feel it, So that was, I mean, like I said, it was there. It got me to. There's something a little bit more,
Right.
but and then which would go into another one of my mom's stories, which was she told me that her dad had passed when she was 16.
Wow.
And she was sleeping, and she heard some books fall over, and she woke her up, and she just felt very peaceful, everything was fine. And then she's like, well, I'll just pick up the books, in the morning. And she went and looked in the morning, and no books had fallen over. And my mom was super, super close to her dad.
Right.
Super close to him.
Yeah. So does she think that he was doing that as a way of communication?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, we've talked about it. And yeah, I really think so. It seems like my mom's had like some experiences with stuff.
Right.
But I don't know if she's open to it or what, and it kind of maybe transferred onto me a bit, I guess.
Yeah, man.
So that kind of goes into, as life progressed, I was late teens, and me and my buddy we were going down to Muncie, Indiana, to visit his brother. He had a souped up van and all that stuff. They would go to the drag strip with it and everything. But so I decided to go down there and with him. And as we're driving, he tells me, he goes, hey, he goes, when we get there, don't be surprised if you see anything. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, just you'll if you see something, you'll know, and don't worry about it. I was like, oh, all right, dude.
Wow.
I'm like, all right, well, whatever. So we went down there, and I walked in the house, and immediately I felt like extremely comfortable, and I'm kind of get a bit of anxiety a little bit, especially there's that awkwardness and all that.
Yeah.
But nothing really happened, and it wasn't until like a year later when we went back down there. And I remember I was sleeping on the couch, and I woke up, and I turned over, and I looked, and I'd been facing the TV, and I opened, when I looked, there's like this like a orange reddish glow, and it was like a older woman, like in a white gown type of deal, and she looked sad. So I was like, okay. And she was like looking at me, but it didn't feel like it was directed towards me. It was like someone like looking off into the distance, and you just happen to be in the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So the next morning I told my buddy, I'm like, this is what I saw and everything. He goes, honestly, that doesn't surprise me at all. He's like, my brother's been going through a really rough time lately, and I guess his brother is a very spiritual and religious person.
Mm-hmm.
And during that, he said, so what you probably saw was maybe like a guardian angel or something like that. I really didn't get too much of a out of him from it, but also at the time I was interested in stuff, but I just was in my own little world and never really focused on stuff like that.
Right. Right. So this was it the full body apparition? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, head to almost toe. I mean, I couldn't see her feet because the gown was like she was just covered.
wow.
You know, like a hood, and like it just flowed down. Like it didn't look bad or anything. I mean, it just looked like a nice gown, and I don't know. It was just so. I mean, I could still see it like as if it happened yesterday.
That's freaky.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was just like I still felt peaceful. I still felt fine. It was just like it was there, and I just happened to see it.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, that was that was something, and then let's see. I guess this kind of gets into the big story. It kind of leads us here. I started getting more into the paranormal when Ghost Hunters first, came out, and
Oh yeah, man. Me too.
and me and a buddy, we would watch it, we would talk about it, and we had even talked about doing some ghost hunting, but we didn't do that till a couple of years later. But I've always had a friend or two where I would talk about spiritualness, and are demons real or ghosts, and what are they, and so one night I was laying in bed, and I was praying, and I'm like, God, I just because I'm a very curious person, I'm like, I asked God, I'm like, I'd like to know how real this is. I want to, I'm just so curious. I want to know. Well, he showed me. I mean, about 2 weeks later, me and a buddy of mine, we went out to a karaoke bar or whatever that we usually did around the same time. It was rather, it's just something that we always did.
Right.
And, so we were there. There wasn't really much going on. We maybe had a drink or whatever, and then a few minutes later we left. And his neighborhood is actually my old neighborhood. I've known him since second grade.
Wow.
I was in second grade, and at the time I was 24, 25 years old. So I still know him to this day too, and I'm now 41. So, but yeah, we were like, hey, you just want to take a walk, because we used to walk around the neighborhood all the time as kids, and so we would just walk and talk, and he's like, yeah, sure, so it's about, I think I want to say it was around fall. This was fall of 2004, 2005 maybe, and so we start walking, and he's talking to me. He had a rough time with his dad, and he was kind of going on about that. But there was something he said, and I don't even know why, but he said something, and it struck me funny. I just started laughing. I don't know why. I just started laughing, and he's like, stop. He's like, stop laughing at me. I'm like, dude, I'm not laughing at you. I don't know why. It's just the way you said it was funny. And then he's like, stop laughing at me. Stop laughing at me. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I mean, that cleaned me up real quick. It was just like from all the laughing.
Right.
And then he just started screaming it. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, man. And while this is going on, I mean, we're still walking.
Right.
And then, we turn a corner, and all of a sudden he just kind of like went down to the ground and started crying, and then he started speaking another language. At first I was like, dude, you okay? And he just started talking another language. I mean, I've known him for so long. I know that he only knows a tiny bit of Spanish. That was from high school. So what he was speaking, I mean, it was fluent. I mean, it was just fluent and old. It sounded old, what I would guess would be old sounding.
Right.
And I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay? And, he's spitting up, he's throwing up, and, I know as gross as it is, but I mean, snot's just pouring out of his nose and everything. He's just speaking in the, I didn't know what else to do. I'm trying to get him up from the ground and, to continue to walk, but the intelligence that was running through my brain wasn't very high at the time because we kept on going away from his house instead of back towards his house. I don't know why it didn't even cross my mind. It was just kind of like just get him moving forward type of thing, I guess.
Right.
And, so we'd get up and he'd go, all while he's speaking this language or whatever. And then finally he dropped back down to the ground, and I didn't know what else to do. So I just put my hands on him and I started praying. And when I started doing that, he started to scream like he was in pain.
Oh no.
And then the screams started to turn into howling. Like, I mean, a wolf howling at the moon type of deal. So I'm praying over him. I've never experienced I've heard about stuff. I've watched shows on it. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew is that you had to pray for him.
Right.
And I didn't know at the time to use Jesus's name and all that stuff. So I'm just kind of praying, just please get up, please, God help him, get up and everything. And he would just do the howling, and I'd get him to stand up, and he'd start speaking in another language. And then finally we got to a point where he kind of fell back down and I couldn't really move him. And I put my hands back on him and I started praying for him. And all of a sudden it felt like heat, like my back was on fire.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, almost to the point where I started sweating. And mind you, I mean, it was like fall, so it was probably about 40 some odd degrees outside.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I just felt like my back was on fire. I mean, it wasn't painful, but I don't know. It was, I really don't know how to explain it, but it was almost like a cooling heat type of deal. I don't know. It's so weird, but so I get him, during this, it kind of stays with me, but I get him back up and I start moving. And now, by the way, we're probably about a quarter mile away from the house, half a mile, somewhere around there. And I start thinking, like, oh my gosh, like this has been going on for a long time. I have to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I got to get him back to his house. So eventually I mean, I'm 5'7", $160 at the time. He's like 5'10", about 190 pounds. And I got to a point where I just started getting frustrated. I didn't know what to do anymore.
Right.
So I got him up and he started to give out, and I grabbed him like this, around his coat. And I mean, we're face to face, and his eyes are rolled back in his head, and he starts speaking in that language again. And I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. I can't understand you. You have to speak English if you want me to understand you.
Right.
And that's when he said, you don't know. I'm like, I don't know what, you don't know what happens. And out of reaction, I just said, I know exactly how this ends. I read the Bible. I know what happens.
Amen.
And then all of a sudden, it was just kind of like, how you get in an argument with somebody and you got them dead.
Yeah.
Change the subject like that. All of a sudden, he was like, "Why aren't the cops here? The cops should have been here by now. Where are the cops?" I was like, "I'm being protected. This was supposed to happen. That's where it all kind of
Yeah.
came, and I was just like, I can't do this. So I got this dude, I put him up on my back in a fireman's carry, and I walked him a quarter mile, half a mile. I got about a house away from his, dropped him back on his feet, and I started to lose. I started crying, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, and I just started walking away to my car. And he's like, "All right, man, I'll see you the next time we go out and do something." I was like, I kind of stopped and turned and looked at him, and he was like, nothing even happened. Like, we had just a regular conversation. I mean, nothing happened at all. I mean, nothing. I was like, all right, and I'm like, I'll call you next time. And I got in the car. I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. This is a minute ago. This dude couldn't even walk. He wasn't even speaking English. And then all of a sudden he's back to my friend. I got my car. I called up, mind you, this is like 2-3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I called my buddy that, has dealt with, he was the same person that I went down to Muncie with. He kind of knew about the spiritual aspect of things, but I didn't get a call back from him, and because it was so late at night. I was driving. I put in some worship music in my car. I had a CD, and I was playing that, and I like bawled the whole way home. I was like, I can't believe that this just happened,
Yeah, man. No doubt about it. That is freaky. That's scary. And you guys hadn't even been out that long, right? You said you just went to a karaoke bar for a minute and then decided to walk.
Yeah, we were there we were at the bar for maybe like half hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
We had a drink apiece. I mean, it wasn't, we just talked and was like, this sucks tonight. We should just go. And
right.
I mean, a couple of people asked, if maybe someone put something in his drink or anything like that, but the waitress knew us. I don't see.
Yeah, man.
We were common people there, and we had a good friendship with her and all that. So it was not like any ill intent or anything like that. I mean, it was just a normal Tuesday night.
Yeah. Now, did he remember doing this? Did you even bring him back up to him?
No, I did not bring it up to him.
Oh my gosh.
I think a lot is like, how do you bring something like that up to somebody? I'm still trying to, I mean, even to this day, I mean, I know what happened. I know why it happened, because when you pray for things, you should be careful what you pray for, because God might be like, are you sure? Yeah. All right, here you go. I mean, it's, I don't know how do you bring that up to somebody?
I don't know, man.
I mean, he doesn't have a history of this, of these things happening. I mean, I know he said that one time, I think he went to he goes to a Pentecostal church,
mm-hmm.
and he went on a retreat or something, and they were praying in the drive down to wherever they were going, and he started shaking, and but I hear that something like that is common, I guess.
Yeah, that can be pretty common, especially, depending on the denomination. You know what I mean? I've seen some pretty wild stuff come out of, a Pentecostal church. They get pretty excited, but nothing like what you're talking about. That.
Yeah, I grew up Catholic, and so our biggest thing was not trying to sleep during mass. But I started asking questions, and I'm like, you know what, something's not adding up to me here. I started asking questions, and no one could answer. I'm like, you know what, just gonna do my own thing,
Yeah,
and
man.
I actually feel closer to God now on my own than I did going to that church or all that.
Yeah. I grew up Catholic too. If you listen to the show, you probably heard that. Me and my dad, we have theological discusussions sometimes because he's Catholic to the bone.
Yeah.
And I'm obviously not anymore. Like I said, my church is non-denominational, but it's mostly there's Pentecostal, there's Church of God and Baptist, just a mix. We rotate different preachers through there. And so sometimes it gets wild. Sometimes people, are real reserved. It's real quiet. Sometimes people are speaking in tongues and shouting. But you would feel a difference. I would imagine if your friend is, if his eyes are rolling back and he's throwing up and he's speaking in some kind of ancient language.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a holy experience to me,
No, definitely not. I mean, especially like what scared me was, where are the cops? Why aren't the cops here yet?
Yeah.
It was like it wanted the cops to be there so we would get in some sort of trouble. And to be honest with you, I mean, like, he's screaming and yelling, I mean, at the top of his lungs. It's not, quiet. I mean, he's loud. So, you start thinking about that. I'm like, how did nobody hear that? Someone must have heard something, but
right. Nothing.
So absolutely nothing.
Does that lead you to believe that it was the answer to your prayer? Like this was just a message for you to show you the reality of things?
At first, I didn't make that connection, but after I had time to digest what happened, I believe it's like, this is what you wanted. This is what you wanted to see, and I was showed it, and it kind of gave me a sense of peace in a way. It's like, all right, now I know this is what's going on. This stuff is as real as it gets.
Yeah.
I mean, and especially to happen to somebody that at the time I knew for about almost 20 years, from children,
right,
to now adults. I wouldn't change the experience, and it definitely laid a foundation of strength in me too, and to also understand it a bit better. And if this were to ever happen again, I have a better idea. So you kind of look into stuff, and I mean, it was an amazing. It's scary and amazing.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it is scary and amazing. Did this friend, because you have known him forever, do you know of any traumatic events or anything that may have happened to him that will make him susceptible to something like this? Or do you think this was just not about him at all?
Knowing some of his past and some of the issues, I mean, we never dug deep into the issues that he had with his dad and all that. to air that, I don't,
Right. Gotcha.
you know, that's kind of, I wouldn't want to do it without his permission, but
Yeah, I get that. And I was just asking because a lot of times people that have they're attacked or oppressed, possessed, depressed, whatever you want to call it, whenever they got it on them, you know what I mean?
yeah.
They there's usually some kind of trauma related experience or loss, or you know what I'm talking about, man. When you're down, that's when you know your guard's down, and the baddies can come in and feed off that negative.
I think for that situation, I think it could have been a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think that there's something there, you know, something maybe attached, and that's possibly why I would never assume to think I know why God does what he does.
Right.
But to me, it would make sense of using him more than anyone else, because there was something that possibly was there, or from, you know, past traumatic issues.
Right.
You know, so for me, it just makes logical sense.
Yeah,
I guess you could say.
Hey, well, yeah, opportunity knocked. You wanted to see it. You got a little taste.
Yeah, a little, man.
I say a little bit.
That was
That's absolutely frightening, man. That's horrible.
But you know, out of that experience, though, I mean, it was like, I don't know, like a confidence sprang from it.
Yeah. Well, look at what you did. Oh, hold up. I can't hear you. Everything just went mute. Hold on. Can you hear me? Everything just went completely mute. After you said confidence, I haven't been able to hear anything.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah,
Hold
I
on.
think
It says your bandwidth is low. We'll work with it.
Okay. Is it good?
Yep, it seems like it. But you say it was a confidence booster for you, right?
Yeah, in the sense, like, if something were to happen again, I feel a little bit more experienced. I know it was one experience, but I felt a little bit more confident about that.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, there's a couple other things that kind of happened. Not with him,
Right.
but I mean, do you have any more questions about that whole situation before I move on? Or
Well, before you move on, I got a couple of comments. Not really a question, but
okay.
I can see how this would boost your confidence, because look at what you did, how you reacted. One, you not only prayed for your buddy, but you snatched this guy up, demon or not, threw him on your shoulders and carried him back home. I don't know if I have a friend like that. I think most of them would give me a bottle of water and, hide me in some bushes until I come to myself. You know what I mean? You're a wingman. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's that great, because I was starting to get frustrated. I was tired. I was exhausted. And I'm like, I just got to get home. I just want to get home, So that was definitely part of it, but it's just like, I can't leave the guy there. I can't get him to move. I'm holding him up like this for I don't know how long.
Right.
My muscles are burning. I'm like, this has to stop. So like I said, I wasn't gonna leave. I couldn't leave him. I mean, even when he started screaming and talking in tongues, it's like, I can't just be like, sorry about your luck, buddy. I couldn't do it.
You're good, man.
My friend, I've known him for so long, it was just like, I had to be there.
Yeah.
And the thought of leaving him didn't even cross my mind. I mean, I've talked to other people and they said, dude, I would have just bailed. I just would have straight bailed.
Yeah.
You can't. No, I just, no, you can't.
That's a friend. That's a friend indeed, right there.
I try.
All right, Dale, go ahead. Let's hear what else you got, because I don't know what. Whew, that's a tough one, man.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. So a few years later, uh, me and my buddy finally decide to do a little bit of ghost hunting.
Mhm.
So it was me, him, my girlfriend at the time, my now wife, and a friend of his with his girlfriend or wife. I'm not sure. So we went to this one place. I think it was Halloween. It was this one graveyard, and there was like cars lined up. There's people walking through the cemetery. We just kind of all looked at each other like, where can we go? I said, well, if you want to go to a cemetery, there's a place by my grandpa's house. He lives out in the boonies. There's not really much out there. We can go check that out. I'm like, all right. So we drive the 45 minutes, hour out there, and we get to this cemetery and get out. We start looking around and kind of going off our own way, being respectful of the place. We're a group of decent humans,
Right.
I mean, so we're walking through, and I'm just kind of walking through this one area, and I walk by this one grave, and the headstone on it, you couldn't even really read it because it was pretty old, but I got this overwhelming sense where I just wanted to start crying. I just felt sadness. I just wanted to bawl my eyes out, but I swallowed it down. I got my girlfriend with me. I can't be, breaking down in the cemetery for no apparent reason. So I mean, it just lingered with me. And I walked up to my buddy. I'm like, dude, I walked over here and I just felt like I wanted to cry. So he walks over where I went, nothing, and as time went on, that sensation started to pass, and we saw some headstones from the late 1800s in this little tiny cemetery. I mean, it was actually really cool and really interesting.
Yeah.
And then we were all kind of, he said he was seeing shadows. I'm like, dude, it's kind of wooded. I'm like, did it look like people? I'm like, he's like, I don't know, maybe it could have been an animal or something. And the light, and we didn't think too much of it. And the other couple that we were with, like, well, if we go further down this way, there's a place we can go. This house, this area is supposed to be haunted. House burnt down, all that other stuff. And so we're like, all right, sure, we'll go. So we all go, and we get to this area that's like another half hour away. And this is about where the interesting part happens. So we get there, and the couple let us, me and my buddy, use their FLIR imager.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started walking to where this burnt house was. My now wife is, talking to them. So we're walking, we're about 5 feet apart, and he's looking through it and everything, and then all of a sudden we both kind of just stop at the same time. And I just remember looking straight ahead, and it was like, out of nowhere, like a perfectly white, like, tear or crack, maybe about 15 feet away from us. I mean, it was just,
wow,
probably maybe a foot long, and it just looked like something like that. And it just happened like a split second, and then it was gone. And I was just like, did you just see that? He goes, yeah. I go, well, what did you see? Because I didn't want to tell him what I saw, and I want to know. And he explained it exactly how I was, how I saw it. It was like a possibly a portal or a
Yeah,
tear,
man.
or I don't know.
Yeah. But do your best to describe it for me if you can. Like,
All right, think of taking about a foot or two of lightning and sticking it about 15 feet away from you. I mean, no heat, no anything like that. It was like a tear. I don't know.
like a big, jagged, bright light.
Yeah, but it was like the white of it was like white, like pure white light.
Wow.
And it winked in and winked out. I don't know. Like I said, it could have been a tear. It could have been a portal trying to open. I really don't know how to.
Did you have any equipment with you other than the FLIR, or?
No, we didn't. We really didn't have anything. And like I said, there was no feeling. There was nothing. It was just like we both just kind of stopped at the same time, and it happened.
Wow.
And it went away, and I mean, I don't know. I just don't. I can't explain it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we walked forward a little bit. I didn't really want to get too close.
Right.
I don't know, you know, if I'm going to get sucked in somewhere. you know, and it's just like, all right, maybe we should go back to the cars. You know, with everybody else, you know, we were kind of quiet after that because it was just like you see something that's you don't think should have happened.
Right.
But yet the best part about it is I saw it with somebody. I had their, you know, if anyone like, no, I'm like, hey, this guy over here saw it too, you know? I mean, it's.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say too. You had a witness, you know, you had somebody else to share this experience with. That makes it so much more credible for yourself.
Yeah.
But I know sometimes things happen and I'm like, I'll try to talk myself out of it. Like, oh, that was probably just my imagination.
Yeah.
Or did I really hear that? Or did I really see that? And when there's somebody else that says, yes, I saw the exact same thing you did, it changes everything, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And this kind of, you know, with you saying that kind of brings me back to what happened with my friend. You know, I had told, you know, people about it. You know, this is part of my story. This is something that happened, you know. So when things get brought up, you know, I'd bring up that story a couple times, and some people are like, "Wow, that's crazy," you know, or "Can't believe you actually hung around." But I think you know, finding, you know, a podcast like yours and a few others, you know, I didn't really want to tell a story because I've told quite a few people, and the majority of them were, well, that didn't happen.
What?
Or what he experienced was some kind of psychotic break, or
Wow.
they tried to give you all this, you know, medical or, you know, stuff of psychological stuff. And it's like, one, you're not a psychologist. You don't have any experience. You're just regurgitating it.
Yeah.
You know, but you can't tell me that I experienced something and then brush it off as this, because this doesn't happen to,
right,
you know, people that have these breaks or mental issues. I don't think it happens like that.
right.
And there's nothing more than having an experience and feeling alone. Like, you can't really tell anybody. Heck, I even told my mom about that, and she even kind of brushed it off after, you know, her experiences and the stuff that she's into as well. You know, it's like, how at first I always thought, like how can you make me, how can I feel this way, or why? But then I realized something like fear. Fear is, it's so much easier to deny or say it wasn't real and accepting that than accepting the reality of what actually did happen, or some, because so you don't believe in something, the fear of knowing that you're wrong or you weren't right about something, and that scares people. And I believe that's why a lot of people, shut this stuff down, is because they're scared.
Yeah, you're 100% right, man. I was going to say the same thing. It's fear. When people can't explain something, they start looking for what'll make them feel better. For me, that's why, like, with this, I don't have to ask you, so Dale, what do you think you're dealing with here? Because you know what you're dealing with here.
Yeah.
And you know what is there to protect you, or who is there to protect you. You know what you can do, what you can fall back on. You have that comfort. You have the comforter,
Yeah.
You don't have to worry. People that don't feel that same bond in that relationship, if they have something, in the spiritual world that goes on, of course they're going to be scared. Who wouldn't be?
Yeah.
It's scary at the moment for all of us.
Oh,
but you have a much better grasp on the reality of what's going on, man.
Oh yeah.
So you don't have to worry about explaining it away.
Yeah. And I like, I just remember, I can really remember, not really what they said, but just the way I felt, when you feel so alone. And I don't want anyone to feel alone because they've had these crazy experiences,
Yeah.
Because it's a lonely feeling,
Yeah, it is.
And I understand why a lot of people don't tell their stories, but I also understand why, people join your show and other shows, to because it's a freeing way to get it out without being ridiculed or anything like that. It's it's really awesome, like you doing the stuff for people, and because it makes you not feel alone anymore.
I appreciate that, man. And hopefully people will hear this and they will be opened up to, to be willing to share their experiences. And even if they keep that to themselves, to know that they're not alone, because, they got you.
Yeah. I
appreciate that.
And speaking of experiencing stuff, I was one more thing, I think.
Okay.
This happened like a couple of years ago. I was not in a good place mentally. My job had led me through a lot of stress and anxiety and frustration and anger, and I still work there. That's why I was so happy to call off today.
Yeah, like I said in the intro, I've never met a man who works more hours than you. I don't believe. It seems like you're constantly at work, man.
Yeah, it feels like it. But I was just in a bad place mentally, and I'm actually started, at the time that this happened, is when I started kind of getting back to where I should be and where I need to be. And I'm sitting there watching a show. It's late. Like I work 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. So, and when I get forced over or I stay over, I get home about 3:30. So going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning is pretty routine and standard for me.
Right.
So, I didn't stay over this night, but I came home. I was watching TV. I had always drink some like chamomile tea or something before bed, and I'm watching TV. And I'm like, feeling okay, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed. So I get in bed and lay down, and I'm about ready to fall asleep. And all of a sudden, I hear 3 knocks on the side of the wall.
Hmm.
I was like, loud ones. I was like, okay. I was waiting for our dog at the time to wake up here and start barking, because we had an English Mastiff, so his bark rattles the foundation of the house, So
Right.
I didn't hear anything, and then I started like, did I really hear that? And I'm like, if it happens again, I know I didn't hear it. Sure enough, 3 loud knocks on the side of the house. I was like, okay, I did hear that. I got my verification.
Yeah.
And immediately I said, in the name of Jesus Christ, you need to go.
Yes.
And then almost immediately after that, I heard nothing and I was out cold. So I'm like, well, it could have been someone, playing a practical joke or anything at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I highly doubt that.
Yeah.
The great thing is that it snowed. So when I was leaving for work, I walked over to the side where our bedroom was. No footprints.
Really?
It was the fresh snow. It was perfectly fine.
Hmm.
I was like, all right, we know what happened here.
Yeah.
It was like, and that on top of everything else just gave me even more. Just how quickly it went away and how quickly I fell asleep kind of gave me a feeling of, all right, whatever you're gonna throw, when it comes down to this type of stuff, let's battle if we have to. I don't.
Yeah. Let's get it on.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's like being scared, but yet like you're not.
Right.
I don't know. It's just a weird, a weird feeling.
Yeah, man. That's how you know it's real, because it has its own distinct feeling. When it's not being necessarily scared. It's not necessarily mad. It has its own feeling, and I can relate. And I share a lot of my personal stuff on the show, but I don't share everything on the show.
Yeah.
But I can relate to you. I know that feeling. I know when I'm in that kind of presence. And yeah, it's showtime. I've looked around, I've studied, I've prayed, I've read, I've asked pastors what they do. There are certain verses in scripture that I like to go to now.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it works.
Yeah.
And so it's beautiful. Do you have any certain ones in the certain scripture that you say, or any certain prayers that you go to?
No, not really. I mean, I don't really read the Bible all too much. What I do is every night I put in an earbud and I listen to the Bible when I go to bed.
Absolutely, yeah.
So sometimes I'll pray, while listening to it, or I just really just open my mind to what I'm listening to and everything, and why actually I started reading or listening to the Bible when I sleep. There's actually a very good reason behind that, but for the most part, no, I don't have any scriptures or anything in particular that I go to. I just kind of, when I do read it, it just seems like every time I do, I end up landing on something that hits home. It's like almost every single time. It's just like, it's how that doesn't just happen.
Right. It's wonderful.
Because I've lost a page in a book, in a regular book, and I'm like, you can never just find that right page. With the Bible, it's just like no matter where you open it, it's just right there at the right time.
Yeah.
Plus, my memory's crap, and I can't remember it. My favorite book series, and I could barely tell you what it's details of it, because it's just, my mind doesn't really work that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I do the same thing. Somebody be like, how'd you like the movie? Oh, it was great. What was it about?
Yeah. Yeah. So these things happened, and
yeah. Just a good movie,
Yeah.
Yeah, man. All right. Now, is there anything else that we need to go over?
I think that there is one more thing, because this is my experience.
Yeah.
And I can't. This is something that I feel like kind of there's a fine line with it. Before I started reading listening to the Bible every night when I go to bed.
Right.
I started getting into like listening to something while I sleep. Like it started out as thunderstorms or calming rain, in the forest,
Right. Yeah.
stuff like that. Then I started finding, stuff like, well, these frequencies or these hertz or whatever. I was like, all right, that's interesting. So I started listening to some of that. And then it led into like meditation stuff.
Right.
Like, this will help you sleep. This will help you open your third eye. This will help you find your guardian angel, or this will help you, this and that. So it piqued my curiosity. So I started listening to that stuff. And then that's when the dreams started to happen. I started having dreams of exercising people.
Wow.
Like full blown, I can feel it. It feels real. In the dream, I feel exactly how I felt with my body, like just that physical draining.
Yeah.
Like I, would always, I started, yeah. And there was one in particular that scared me, like not because of what was going on in it, but it was like it felt like an older version of one of my kids that I was doing.
Okay.
And that freaked. That's one of my kids. It was. It didn't look. I couldn't see the face, but it just felt like it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm done. I'm so done. And I switched to that, and for the most part, the dreams have stopped for now.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would have dreams like that from time to time before I even was listening to that type of stuff. So I feel like, there's definitely spiritual battles going on, and
I think so. Yeah.
And man, I just remember just waking up and knowing I got to work a 12-hour shift and just feeling already just worn out just from a dream.
Yep. It is exhausting, man.
Like I said, when you start getting into all that spirit stuff, I can't even remember it, but your guardian angel or your soul familiar and stuff like that. I don't think that's really for me. I'll just leave it. I didn't like where stuff was headed, and no, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I know other people have other experiences, and other people have experiences that start out wonderful and end up going completely wrong. So it's just like, I'm not for me.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
It's all right. You're staying in your lane, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
For me, this is where I'm going. If it works, it works for you. Yeah. I'm not going to judge you. That's your business, not mine. You know what I mean?
That's it, buddy. That's it. Man. Well, please keep in touch with me, Dale.
Definitely.
I know we've passed probably 40, 50 emails back and forth between each other trying to line stuff out, but don't
Yeah.
stop now. I mean, we can go ahead and stay in touch. Just because I had you on the show, don't mean we had to quit talking.
That sounds terrific.
You're a good man.
Does. If anything else happens, I'll definitely shoot it your way, and
yeah, please do.
Keep it. We'll see what the future holds. I don't know how things are going to go, but you just never know.
That's right. Just stay prayed up and enjoy your day off.
Oh, I already am. This is
Thanks, brother. I'll talk to you later, man.
all right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.